Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold. By the way, I'm Harold, world's greatest redneck. Sorry, forgot that part of the introduction. Today we're going to start on, I guess what you could call the second part of the project. We're on the second drawing, and that is the bushing to make a ceiling mounted camera mount. And I've got enough to make, I'm supposed to make 6 of those. I got enough to make 1 right now, but the rest of the materials are on the way. But all you need to see me make is 1, and you know the rest is going to be the same, right? So nevertheless, we're going to get on with that today. This next Sunday, Easter Sunday, there's not going to be an ARW discussion, so you won't find one scheduled, and you won't be able to find it if you're one of the fans that goes there. Now that I've said all that, let's just get right on to making the parts. Alright, so today we're going to start with this big piece of bar stock that was sanded 5 inches by I think 2 inches diameter, and we're going to bore a hole in it. We're going to drill a couple of holes in there and insert some pieces of brass, and of course we'll have to thread those holes because these are 1/4 and they're going in there as near as I can tell. Okay, so I've got the lathe already oiled up, and if my runny nose will let me, we'll get over there and get on it. I was down here pulling on the belts, and I discovered we got trouble right here in River City. This is in here good and tight, but the belt, the pulley over here, he has let go and slipped way back. This happens on these Craftsman lathes quite a lot, and you can see we got plenty of movement. I'm going to have to take the screws out of there and try and settle it all back down in line again before we get started. One of those things. So I went to the hardware store, and then it dawned on me, I've got a pile of key stock at home, but I went ahead and bought these 2 little pieces there. I got that whole pile for a little bit more than what I got 2 little short ones at the hardware store. Too bad I didn't remember where they were. It's dawned on me that I should make another one of these things, put a bearing on each end, so I can set it in the lathe like this, or I can set it in the lathe like that, without ever having to take the darn tool out of the holder. That makes sense? Well, we start out with facing off the end. You gotta run it a little slow. That was dumb. I think I should drill the center and put a center in it because it's sticking out too far. Take a nap. Alright, we got to drill this thing out. Tilt the camera a little bit more, maybe. In the event that you might be wondering why this is kind of a hard job for this lathe, this is a 2-inch diameter piece of metal, and the hole in my chuck's about 1.5 inches, somewhere in that area. So you can see that this piece, when it comes to the back of the chuck, is only about 3/4 of an inch inside the chuck jaws. That's all the grip I've got. So I go to trying to square off this end out here. This thing just, wobbles back and forth because the end is not straight. It's just going to push it back and forth. It even does that with a center drill. So doing stuff like that with this small lathe is more difficult than pieces that actually fit it. I guess that's the best way to say it. Alright, I've slowed the lathe down as slow as I can get it without going into back gear. And this is a 15/16 drill bit, and it's not long enough to go through. It's I'll be able to get about 4.5 inches of it through there, maybe. But it'll save me a lot of boring if I can cut this thing with it. I may have to go to back gear. I don't know. This is a big bit, and going from 5/8 to, well, going from a 1/2 inch to this that's a pretty big jump. So we'll just have to see what happens. I don't know if the lady's going to like it. It might be that I need to put a steady rest on here and work into it with a boring bar. I don't know. We'll just feel our way along. I think that's too big a jump in one cut. We'll move down to a smaller bit. Alright, this is a tapered shank bit, 3/4 inch, and it's long enough to actually go through there. Just all depending on me. So we're going to try him, and we may even have to slow this thing down to back gear. If we do, we will. Yeah, I guess back gear. Well, that's as slow as it can go. You have to admit that's slow. We'll see what we can do there. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll have to speed it up from that. Yeah, I gotta speed it up from that. Take a nap. Now that's as fast as the back gear goes on that particular pulley. Well, now I've got a 3/4 inch hole in there all the way through. This bit's long enough to reach. And I squared off the end, faced off the end with a drill bit in there acting as a live center, or I guess maybe a dead center. But that made it look better there, and I'm going to put a live center in here and skim the outside so it runs true with the inside, at least sort of true, and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, now that I've got a hole in the center and a center in the hole, I'm going to smooth off the outside to run reasonably concentric with the hole. The hole's not finished yet, though. We've still got, I'm at 3/4 of an inch, we're going to an inch and 70 thousandths, something like that, so got a good quarter of an inch plus to go. Funny how it made a really good cut the first time cutting the crud off the outside, and now it's not looking quite so wonderful. Maybe it broke the tip of that insert. Whatever, we'll worry about that later. I'm not that worried about the appearance right now. Okay, we're on the finished cut. That's 1.9. I'm not getting any chatter with this tool, whereas I was with the carbide. It's not, it cuts just like, old 1018 stuff does, where you can never get a smooth finish, and that's what it looks like to me. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead with this high-speed steel boring bar, and I'm going to bore it as far up in there as I can. I had cut it back on the depth of my bore because I was worried about chatter. I was getting chatter from the carbide, but I'm not with this, so I'm going to stick this guy out about as far as it'll go. I'll wake you guys up when I get somewhere. Well, with the use of this little plug gauge, and I think that's what you call it, and a micrometer, I've determined that I'm either dead on the specified size of 1.072 or maybe 1,000th short of it. So I'm going to make possibly one more spring cut down through there, because I have before on a deep hole found that it tapered inwards. I mean, when you got down inside, it would narrower than back here at the opening. So I'm going to make it maybe one or two more spring cuts, and we'll measure that and call that a day. Hopefully, well, on cutting from this side, I've only bored down to about here, and so I've got to turn this thing around, square off the end, and bore in from the other end to kind of complete the hole. But it's a lot deeper than any of my current boring bars. I think you guys can see where the boring tool stopped. Darn thing's trying to focus on me. That looks pretty good to me. Just touch it one time. Yeah, that's good. Alright, so now we'll have to take this and go to the mill, drill some holes and tap them, and prepare it for a little piece of brass in each hole, and thumb screws and such. So we'll move the camera, and we'll move you, and we'll go over to the mill.